This is not the smartest guys in the room. Let's hear you, Tom.
What's going on, buddy? How are you?
You know what's weird is I feel like I can't hear myself, which is probably good. I just how are you doing today? Not the smartest guys in the room. We got Dr. Touchy. We got Madison in the house. We're talking about user-centric media. Tom, I wanted to tell you a little win for me. I got an email to set up on my phone that I've been trying to set up for like 2 years. You know, like everybody's like, you should have like Dominick at Motivation Champs. I bought this thing like 2 years ago and I couldn't get it to my phone. And now all of a sudden it's on my phone. I feel liberated. I'm a new level of professionalism as of now. Okay. Not guys in the room. Welcome. Oh, how are you doing today? What's up, Tom?
Did you say not the smartest guys in the room somewhere in there?
I did. Right after I was telling you it took me 2 years to get an email to my phone.
Yeah, your Ludditude, Ludditeness, Ludditude. I like Ludditude. I don't think that's a real word, but I kind of like it. But never ceases to amaze me. Like, 2 years to get an email on your phone.
Why is there so many codes? It's like SPPPP in, SPPP out. What the hell is that? I got an email address. Can I just get it on my phone? Why do I need 9 codes going 10 different ways? Just let me look at emails and send emails from my phone. That's it.
Just work. Why won't you just work?
It's annoying. Hey, Tom, you want to say something exciting about us going to Indie Media with Dr. Tachi Mediascope? We're coming, man. We're coming soon.
We are. I just sent another. Oh, we got a heart from Dr. Tachi. That's always encouraging. I just sent another or an email to Dr. Tachi this morning, just to touch base, figure out some best practices, see how we can streamline the process and make sure we get her everything that she needs the way she needs it. But the plan is to have, we've got a huge backlog of Not the Smartest Guys in the Room episodes because it took us forever to settle on a logo, and then for me to build the intro and the outro for the show. So now that we've finally done that, we can start delivering episodes to Dr. Tachi. We can start getting them up with Mediascope. I'm excited for that. I'm excited to reach another audience, to see if we can bring more people into the community, expand the community, and provide, more value. I think that's the whole idea. The whole reason why we do this is try to spur conversation, not just for our own benefit or our own edification, but really to help other people, by having those conversations, by participating in those conversations, and by getting a lot of smart people together to provide solutions for problems that, we face as business owners, as entrepreneurs, and as people trying to navigate this sort of ever-changing media environment that we live in. So yeah, I'm super excited for it. I know you are too. Dr. Tachi threw a heart on there. So she's given us some graphical representation that she is also excited about. I'm sure she can tell us more. But yeah, that's the scoop. That's the latest, I suppose, on that front, Tom.
All right. Well, let's talk. Since today's subject was Tom, it was high level. So I've got media wars, user-centric media, site maps. So why don't you enter that and then segue to Dr. Tachi as well?
Okay, will do. So I'm just going to because I want to have some reference in front of me. I'm just moving a window around here on my screen so I can actually see what I'm talking about. So there's a guy on LinkedIn that I've followed for a while. I don't know if he pronounces his name Shapiro or Shapiro. Anyway, it's this guy, Evan. I'm going to say Shapiro because that's what makes sense to me, but hopefully I'm right about it. But this guy, Evan Shapiro, he comes from the entertainment world. He comes from sort of big media, the studio industry in the entertainment space. And he left that space. He got downsized a number of years ago, lost his job at a big studio. And then started, kind of teaching and talking about the media industry. And he started doing this thing. He started referring to himself as a media cartographer. And he started creating this map. He originally created it for a course that he was teaching about media, where basically it's a 16:9 screen, right? If you can picture that, imagine that. And I encourage people to Google this. He's got a Substack. You can find him, and you can find him on LinkedIn. But he basically has made this map, and on the map are a whole bunch of circles, right? And those circles represent different sort of media and tech companies that are involved in media and their sort of market cap, right? The size of the companies, what they're valued at, what they're worth. And this map of the media universe, as he calls it, really kind of caught on. It ended up getting published, and it sort of became a thing unto itself. And he regularly updates it multiple times a year, over the course of the last several years since he started doing this, I think in 2022, if I'm not mistaken. What's really interesting to me about it is he recently published an article on his Substack where he's talking about big tech, like having had taken over the media ecosystem, right? Where you have Apple and Facebook, Meta, right? Amazon, all these big tech companies really playing a huge role in media, and holding some of the Microsoft, also holding some of the largest market caps of any companies associated in media, market caps that end in a T instead of a B, right? Like multiple trillion-dollar companies. And what you've seen since that started to happen in the kind of the early 2020s, or the late 2010s, what you've seen is a shift from traditional broadcast media, cable television, legacy media, as you often hear it referred to nowadays, towards digital media or streaming media or online media, right? And we've gotten to a point, and that was kind of when the streaming war started about 3-4 years ago, when the really kind of started to kick in, became clear that streaming was sort of the way of the future, that it was the direction that everybody was moving in. And now we're at a point, he just published an updated map, and in this article talks about how we're at a point where he says the streaming wars are over. Like the streaming wars are done. Netflix won. Period. End of story. Netflix's market cap is now greater than the market cap of Comcast, Disney, Fox, Paramount, and Discovery, Warner Brothers put together, right? So Netflix won the streaming wars. The streaming wars are over, and now the shift is, now the focus is on user-centric media, user-centric content, where it's really the big focus, and what he thinks will be the winners sort of moving forward in media are the folks who are focused on delivering for their audiences, primarily as the focus, right? So they're companies that really take that sort of audience first approach. And that also gives entree to the market for smaller companies to play a role in this user-centric media world, for smaller companies to get involved and to start producing content for their audiences, right? For businesses and brands to sort of become content production studios in and of themselves. So it's really interesting. And I think, my big takeaway from this is, as I was telling you earlier, Dom, before we got on, when we were chatting a little bit, before we started the show, in my professional life, I started working in television almost 25 years ago. So in 2001, I started working in television. It'd be 24 years next month since I started working in the entertainment industry and media. And in that time, in those 24 years, media has gone from cable television, right, being the sort of the be all end all dominating force in media, to now reaching the end of the streaming wars and looking forward and recognizing that what's going to dominate going forward is a combination of tech that's out there right now, media and streaming platforms that exist today, but also tech that we haven't invented yet, that hasn't been created to fill the need or the void that's going to be left by legacy media, by broadcast cable, as it continues to shrink in its market share. I mean, ultimately, I don't see a future for it. I said 10 years ago that I think cable companies ultimately were going to become internet service providers, period, end of story. They were going to get out of the broadcast game, right? They were going to get out of the content creation game, and they were just going to become internet service providers. I've been saying that for 10 years, and I think that still holds true. So what I'm curious to see is what's coming up and what's next. And I think the big lesson is remain nimble, be adaptable, be willing to adapt and embrace new technologies as they come forward, because this ever-changing media landscape is not going to stop changing, right? Where we are now with streaming platforms is not the end, right? Where we are now with the democratization of media creation through platforms like YouTube is not the end, right? So I'm curious to see what's coming next, and I'm excited to adapt and adopt new technology. So that's kind of where my head's at. That's what I'm thinking about today. But I just wanted to share that, kind of kick the conversation off there. I'm sure you have something to add to that, and I would almost guarantee that Dr. Tachi has some thoughts on the subject. So what do you think, Dom?
This is exciting. When you sent me the email, first I'm like, Tom, I don't want to talk about trade wars and tariffs, and I'm like, what the hell are you trying to get us into? And then you're like, read closer, and then I read closer, and I thought, wow, this is the center of everything I do, like content output, control content, get inspiration out to the world as many different ways as you can. As many different ways. Let the user choose. That's really what I think the conversation for me comes down to. User choice. User might say, like, if I want inspiration, positivity, smiles, content that elevates humanity, user might like not the smartest guys in the room. They might hate not the smartest guys in the room. It's okay. Well, then I'm going to give you a different option. I'm going to give you a book from Sonia Chand, a book from Debbie Griffiths, a different piece of content with a dog chasing its tail, all different types of content. You can choose which one you like, but our output's going to be high. Julie and me interviewed James Orsini, head of startups with Media yesterday, and his was one of the things he talked about was social at the center of your marketing, social at the center of integrated marketing. It all starts there, rather than 30 years ago. Me and Tom were talking, like 30 years ago, you wanted to buy this time slot to have your ad or your show on here. Well, now low cost attention means the lowest cost attention might be starting a podcast, it might be being on a podcast, it might be sharing something that goes viral. So we need to hear from Dr. Tachi. Go on, Tom.
I just want to say one thing in response to what you're talking about there with the social first kind of approach that VaynerMedia takes. What's interesting to me about that is not just that it's the sort of low-hanging fruit, that it's the least expensive kind of entry point, right? What the other thing that really comes to mind is that it is a very user-centric approach. Like, if you think about it, for brands or businesses, where do they communicate with their community the most, other than through direct interactions, through customer service and things like that, right? Where do they have the most connection and conversation, right? Two-way conversation with their community? It's on social media, right? So it's a very user-centric approach to say, hey, let's start on social. Let's start where the community is and then bring them to someplace else, right? And find other ways to reach them and other ways to touch their lives. But like, let's start where we know we can have a conversation with that community. So I think I just wanted to throw that in. I think that's an interesting approach, and probably one that they've found tremendous value in.
Fair enough. Okay, now we've talked enough. Dr. Tachi, what say you on this subject? This is your space.
First of all, this is how I know I'm in the right field, because I got so exhilarated listening to the two of you talk. I was like, yes, I mean, nobody else in my sphere may seem to give a damn, but I give a damn. And I love all of this. So thank you for talking about this today. 100% agree with both of you. And I've been saying this for a while now, the future is indie. So when we go back to looking at how cable was so pervasive. First of all, broadcast legacy media was so pervasive. Then cable was the thing, and nobody thought that this was going to go away. Certainly not them, and they've been trying very hard for it not to go away, but it's inevitable as the audience gets smarter in terms of, I have a choice and it doesn't have to be you. And we've now gotten our hands on tools that allows all of us to be creators in some way, shape, or form. Social has gotten even more pervasive because now I don't need you to be a go-between. I can go direct to consumer, right? In a sense, with my great content that goes straight to my audience. So that goes, directly to this user-centric media and this audience-centered approach, where the audience is the first thing you think about. You're creating content, for you, yes, but you really are creating this for them, because you don't have a an audience without them. You don't have anybody to listen to you without them. So 100%. And so I think if we're looking futuristically, definitely Tom is 100% correct. There are things out there that are in development and exist, but not on a mass medium scale yet, that we have yet to encounter, that will probably be in tandem to or take the place of all the things that we see. So it's definitely very exciting. It's a very exciting time. And one other thing to the social aspect of this, we're even seeing as not to talk about politics, but we can't ignore the fact that it's having a significant effect on all industries, and media included. I would say particularly media. And so as we see the jumping ship of some people, personalities, journalists that have been at certain outlets, and now because of the changing tide, they've either been forced out or they've left on their own. You see that they're looking to places like YouTube. They're looking to increase their social. And the good thing is that they've already have a following because they built a community. But now this community is even more special. For example, Don Lemon, who was a former CNN anchor and air personality, he last year started his channel on YouTube, and he has the Don Lemon Show, where he comes out about 3 times a day. Well, in just 1 year, he's managed to grow to 670,000 subscribers. He has a thriving community. They're very vocal when you look at it. They're very participatory. He's even formed a panel of viewers that will come on periodically. If you want to be involved with it, you can come on and give your take on the stories. So now it's an even better relationship, because you don't have CNN between him and his viewers, and it's only going to grow, and I see that happening more for people. So that's what I think. Not sure if my scattered thoughts were any good, but there you go.
No, I think that was great, Dr. Tachi. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I think your example of Don Lemon is really apropos, because that bringing in the community. I think one of the things that he's really been able to do and embrace, because he's now on his own platform. He's the one driving the bus. He doesn't have to deal with sort of senior leadership at an organization like CNN anymore. Is he can really just follow his values, right? And that's the thing that I see whenever I see clips, from his interviews. He does a lot of on the street stuff, right? Like when I see clips of those published, like really what he's doing is he's following his values, and he's having conversations with people, and he's not restrained by an overinflated sense of false equivalency that we see a lot in sort of legacy news media in particular, where they feel like, you know, they have to create this sort of false equivocation between two different positions, even if one position is crazy. They have to say like, well, on one hand we have this, and on the other hand we have that, and it makes it sound like they're two equal but opposite sides of a coin, when they're clearly not, right? And I don't feel like he doesn't feel constrained by that anymore. And so it's really interesting to watch what he's doing. And obviously there's an appetite for it. I mean, like you said, growing to over 600,000 subscribers in less than a year is insane. I mean, obviously he had some name recognition to begin with because he had been on CNN, and because his him leaving CNN got a bunch of publicity as well. But like, you know, it's one of those things, like he's got, you know, his ability to build that following is I think a clear reflection of what he's delivering, and the fact that he is delivering for his community, for his audience, that he is delivering what they want, right? And he's listening to them, like literally by bringing them in and involving them in the conversation. So I think that's a great example. Thank you for sharing it. So we're going to move on now to Madison. Madison, you know, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, you know, from a different perspective. You know, obviously, not to date myself and Dom, but you know, from a younger perspective than he or I can bring to bear.
Easy.
Hey, I just said younger. I just said younger.
Okay.
I danced it around. I danced around it a little bit. But curious to hear from a younger perspective, Madison, you know, what you think about creating user-centric media, and like how you see it working for you or your business or your brand or who you work with going forward.
Yeah, I think the conversation so far has sort of answered some questions for me, and you know, just like the whole conversation about diversifying the content that you put out is really important. Because I as the rise of like podcasts have become so popular in the past couple years, and that was always confusing to me because I'm like, wait, this is like a radio show. Like as technology becomes more interactive, like podcasts are arguably like like not as interactive, and so I was always curious, you know, what's that about? But it is about, you know, being able to select the content that you're consuming as a consumer. And so I think that that's really important to remember as I'm growing my business and my brand and stuff, you know, to create content for, you know, the people who will be consuming it, and diversifying the things that I put out into the world. I think that's going to be, you know, important to remember.
I got a thought on this from, as Madison brings up podcasts specifically. So we used to want to get on that radio dial, you know, there's these 200 stations or whatever. Then all of a sudden satellite radio comes and they have 1,000 stations. And then podcast comes and there's 10,000. So the more choices, it's so evident that I'm giving people more options, more ways to listen, more choices. It almost works every time. So it's interesting you bring that up like that. All right, let's go. Let's keep rolling this. This is a good conversation. Tom, you did a good job. So Jason, okay, what do we got here? We're talking user-centric media. Jason, if you want to jump on about a podcast you're listening to, why you choose that, what is it that you choose to watch and why? Listen to.
Give me 1 second.
Go on. We'll come back to Jason in a minute. Okay, Tom, we got comments here. Dr. Tachi says, hello all. My friend Marquis says, Dom, you are certainly the smartest guy in the room. Yeah, look at that. I got, which we never try to be. I said on a post the other day.
I can come back.
No, I'll give me 1 second. I said the other day on a post that we bring experts and panelists and we discuss. Somebody said there are no experts. That was it was like it was a Newsbreak article. I shared something about not the smartest guys in a Newsbreak article. And the one comment was, there are no experts. And I was, come on, man. That's what you want to bring me down about? No.
That's a weird hill to die on. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
right.
Like, I think there's a lot of overinflated experts running around, like, and people trying to claim expertise in areas where they're not really experts. But like, I mean, I think there are experts. Like,
You would think. He says there are no experts. Okay, so Tom, before we get to Jason, we are going to do a Tom Stums today. Yeah, right off the bat, Tom Stums. This comes to me. This Tom Stum is sponsored by my lovely wife Liz, because we were talking about what I'll ask her, and she's like, she's in finance, and she's like, sometimes she's like, I'm not creative, so and she'll won't have an answer. But today she had an answer, and I'm like, that's a good one. Liz, you are getting creative. So Tom Stums. Tom, what do you think about Blue Origin and commercial space travel?
so I think where it stands right now, and I understand that we are on a sort of progression of commercial space travel. I think overall commercial space travel as a thing gets a thumbs up. And here's why. Because I think in the near-term application of it is that if we devise systems that make it safe, repeatable, and affordable, right, through the experimentation that we're kind of going through right now, where billionaires are spending crazy money to go into low Earth orbit for a very short period of time, or just kind of break out of the atmosphere barely for a short period of time. If that experimentation leads to low Earth orbit space travel, kind of intercontinental travel like that, then I think that's a really good thing. That I think it could, if we can make it sort of efficient and affordable, then I think it could be really good for us as people, because it could shrink the Earth even further than it has, right? I mean, if you look back, 400 years ago, right, the Earth, it took months to go from from continent to continent across the ocean, right? It took a year or more to kind of circumnavigate the globe the first time it was done. It was a very, very sort of big place in terms of how long it took to get from point to point. Obviously, in the last 120, 150 years, that space has shrunk significantly. That time has shrunk significantly. And so the world has gotten smaller, right? Which also has meant and has fostered better collaboration amongst people from different backgrounds, from diverse sets of experiences. And I think that's a good thing, right? I think that is beneficial, right? I mean, I'm a, to use a term that I think is, I don't know, maybe overplayed, however you want to say it. Like, I'm a lifelong learner, right? And so, like, I love learning. I love experiencing new things. Like, when Dr. Tachi shares some of her culture with us, talking about jollof rice, right? Like, I love that kind of stuff. I love learning about those things. I love learning about other people's experiences and the ways other people see the world. It's really interesting to me. And so to my way of thinking, if we can shrink the world even further, if we can go from from New York, like here's an example. I used to travel a lot for work. And I have many times taken a direct flight from New York to Hong Kong to travel for work, right? That is a brutal plane ride. Just to let you guys know, it's about 17 hours that you're on the plane, right? So it is a long time in a metal tube with a bunch of strangers, right? Cramped in a seat, uncomfortable, having to get up and walk around. It's a whole thing, right? It's not the best. If we could shrink that to just a couple of hours, right? I mean, imagine the world of possibility that opens up. If it's affordable and it's short, it's like going from New York to Boston, right? Like in a car or driving, right? Which is about 3 hours for those who aren't from around where I live, right? Or like Pittsburgh to New York, right? Or Pittsburgh to Philadelphia, right? Like, I mean, if we could get around the world in the amount of time that it takes us to go from city to city without even maybe leaving one state now. I mean, that would be incredibly valuable, and I think good for humankind. So I it's maybe a little bit counterintuitive, and I'm not giving it a thumbs up for where it is right now. I'm giving it a thumbs up for where I hope it goes, where I hope it ends up. But for today, space travel, the commercialization of space travel, I give a thumbs up.
Tom, that's 2 weeks in a row with a thumbs up. Well done for you. But I do think that you kind of threw it under the bus with low Earth orbit. What did he say?
I mean, that's what they're doing. Like they're not going like into deep space. They're barely breaking out of the atmosphere.
That I agree with. I would have given a thumbs down just because I don't believe they're in space, but it's not my segment. Okay, not the smartest guys in the room. User-centric comment. Jason, we are back to you. So I will say I'm sidebarring here just because we get some good comments. Eric said I should have asked you about the dire wolves and the ice age. That would have been better. Dave Campbell says, I thought commercial space travel was referring to camping out at Walmart. So we got some good comments here today. Dave could be right. Okay, Jason, on to you. What say you, my friend?
As far as space travel, or where you guys started out with the room?
You better. Tom is shaking his head. He wants us back on user-centric media. What do you got for us? No space travel for you.
So what is user-centric? Like, give it to me in layman's. Give me a more lamer term than that, because I'm sorry if I have to search the dictionary. I don't know what it is.
You selecting the content you want. So rather than having to choose, rather than somebody telling you can go on TikTok and search for exactly what you want. You can go on Netflix and search for 600 shows. If I want to see about Winston Churchill today, I don't have to go to a TV guide and see the 4 channels that were on. So we are seeing user-centric media is the new dog in town. How's that, Tom?
Well, and I would just add on to that, Dom. Like, yes, it's the sort of proliferation of choice that we have in the media that we consume, but also for content creators, right? And this is, I think, most of the people here or on stage create content of some variety, right? And almost everybody does create some kind of content, right, through social media or other modalities. So the question, Jason, is like, user-centric media, like, are you creating content for your audience, or like, are you creating content for you? And the way forward, the argument was that that what we're entering now is really an era where creating content for your audience, that is audience first, audience focused, user, right? That's the audience is the user-centric. That's the way forward. So the question is either A, what are you doing to create that kind of content? Or B, where are you seeing that content show up for you as a consumer?
Well, that's 2 different questions. I mean, completely 2 different questions, because if you
that's
look
why I
at
gave you an A or a B.
Yeah, that's trying to make quadrants of a choice, and I'm not going to work with that. Sorry, but because and we don't work with our attention that way. And I'll tell you why. Because you are fed so many things per day, but how many thoughts in your mindset are going to search for your interest field? And then when it comes to making content, of course, the media's preached to you, you need to niche yourself. You need to niche your subject matter. And I'm kind of like, you know what? That way of thinking can sustain and can make it consistent for somebody else to follow. But is the question, do you want to be funded? So it goes towards, are you doing this for yourself or doing it for others? I think that what we've been given and we have the ability to make for ourselves, and we are making for an industry, is your interest field. Like, okay, for example, I do man-to-man, and I'm still working on that brand. It's taken me a while. But you know what I didn't know, if I go into that niche where it's really self-development and male-centric development, What do I need? What are the bases that I need? I can't just go into it with like, well, I'm going through these struggles as a man. I need to be able to give, a producer and director's view to see, this is what people are interested in. But then I have all other interests that are not just about the mental health about men, but like, where do men go search for their happiness and other things? So I can really pivot and tree out a lot of different interests. So I make it, yes, for myself, number one. I will call it for every time, and whether I have a lot of viewers or not, it's interesting when I'm interested and when someone else wants to tune into it. But it's also interesting that there are more people in that field to do it as well. So you can go and try to make for that specific, but I feel like we need to creatively expand outside of that. I mean, yes, it's important to have a niche or a category, but I've heard too many podcast prophets, and I've been one, and I've just kind of recanted on my own and just saying like, look, go where you really further yourself, where you are enriched. More than likely somebody else is going to be enriched, but you got to figure out the deliberation of it, the delivery, where you deliver it to, how you deliver it. There's so many things that will confuse somebody at the long run. But for user centric, I just think that I don't want to be pigeonholed. And I know a lot of other people, and some people will say, well, that's the difference between you making money in a niche. And I'm like, well, if you're looking at the biggest examples out there, can you tell me that Joe Rogan is specifically niche interest? No, he has scientists, politicians, actors. He has theologists. He has so many different people. He is not niched. Now, he's like one of the golden standards. So he's showing to be different, but he knows how to encourage an interest field where maybe the masses aren't talking. And if you're always trying to make towards what the masses are making, that's where you fail the most. You fail because you are not willing to risk. I think with making media and content, understand risk and failure come every single day. So that's our
Jason, man, appreciate you. And one thing I got out of that is where you are enriched, you tend to go, and it's a good place to be. So whether that's you talking about fatherhood sometimes, or if me and Tom want to talk about dire wolves and space travel and these, I'm looking on this computer, media maps. Okay, well, that's what we're going to talk about, right? And hopefully some other people, like when we started talking about it today, Dr. Tachi was like, yes, right, Dr. Tachi, you're down with media maps. And so you hope other people are down with that as well. So go on, Tom. And then we got our friend Julie and Eric.
Yeah, I mean, I think I totally get what you're saying, Jason. And look, I've pushed back against this idea of niching down as well. But I don't think creating user-centric content is niching down, really. It's not picking a super narrow focus. It could be anything that your community is interested in, or the kinds of people that you want in your community could be interested in. So I would argue that actually part of the reason why Joe Rogan is as popular, or has been as popular as he's been, why his podcast has so many followers, is because he's curious, and his listeners are also curious, and they're curious about the guests that he has on, and they like a variety of different things, and so they appreciate that he brings those people on. So I would argue that, and if you've seen the way his podcast has evolved over time, right, they very much have responded to the kinds of content that have brought in more viewers and the kinds of content that have turned off viewers. And it's changed over time in the same way that this show has changed over time, right? That's sort of a natural process, but it's good to do because it means that you're actually paying attention. You're actually listening to what people are responding to, and you're giving the folks what they want, and you're meeting them where they are. And I think that is user-centric. So I don't think it has to be niching down. And I totally get your pushback on that idea, because I've also railed against that myself. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that in. I think we're up next on my screen, and up next is Julie. Is that correct, Dom?
Yeah, that's just Julie. Just so tell us about yesterday. Me and Julie interviewed James Orsini for our podcast, and he's the president of startup for VaynerMedia. So, Julie, you want to talk a little about some of his points and just like, here's a guy that's doing this at a high level, the largest level. And I mean, he was in this space. So, Julie, can you speak to that?
Well, I mean, thanks, Tom. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, the esteemed panel here. And it was really interesting to listen to him because the way they've built out VaynerX, which is the umbrella company for all Vaynerchuk brands, basically, is Gary had an idea. He said he wanted to, what was it, Tom? I'm making up a number, like reach 4 million people, da da da. And then he left it on the table for his team, his senior leaders to figure out how to do it. And I think Gary does it in such a way he knows he understands the power of every single platform he's on and knows whose audience is. And it is also one thing I thought of is the power of analytics and understanding your user experience of your consumers, and then really researching that and innovating how you reach out to each single consumer, if that makes sense. It's probably not as eloquent as Dom would say. Recap.
Fair, Julie, fair. So in your own branding marketing, is user centric something that matters to you? Do you change it up to try to get to different people, or is it all the same type of content every time?
I try to be very responsive to what my consumers are looking for. And I see a lot of people, and I can learn lessons from watching a lot of other people who are putting out media or content that has nothing to do with their brand. Like, I know Dom knows who I'm talking about, like political brands or smart ass jokes or something like that, that has nothing to do with your brand. So I really do try to stay focused. Every once in a while, I'll throw up a picture of like a personal picture, which people tend to really love those, but you have the tools right now to go on Meta or LinkedIn and to figure out who likes what, and really doing a deep curative dive in terms of your output of content. That's all I got, guys.
Okay, Julie, fair enough. Okay, we hold on here. So I appreciate Julie. Okay, let's see here. Dr. Tachi, I'm just going back to the comments here. We got comments there. Dr. Tachi says it's really just the edge of space. Eric said we tried a Concorde jet. Where is it today? Okay, Jason wants to ask a question. So Jason, we're going to get in. Jason, Tom agreed with you, so I don't think you're going to be able to beat Tom up today, but we like that when we don't mind when Tom gets hate. It's good for our clips. Our clips of Tom getting hate are going to get, that's how I'm going to go viral. I break down this show, Tom getting hate. I share it on my YouTube page. So Jason.
Actually, I agree with Tom more often, believe it or not. I mean,
know you do. Go on.
I think that we're both of the same cloth, but we have different design. My question is like, you guys just raised an important point about Vaynerchuk Media. What is Vaynerchuk Media? How did Gary Vaynerchuk really get his audience? I'll tell you who his audience is. It's the confused creator and the confused company that doesn't know their identity. And they flock to him so much. How many times have you seen a clip where somebody in their 20s just getting out of college? What do I do? How do I make my product stand out? I want to go down this entrepreneurial journey. And I never see him talk about anything that is significant outside of getting attention. When I first saw him years ago, he was basically telling me, you people don't know shit. You people do not know anything about how to keep attention or get attention. I'm going to show you how. And then there were all these makeups. So my question is like, do people really know what Vaynerchuk Media brand really is? You know, and I've read a few of his books, but the question is do people understand that his brand?
You think he has a confusing brand, Jason?
No, not a confusing brand. His brand is preaching to the confused creator.
Okay. So does he need to tell you more than that? I mean, so then it just spans out from there. So first, he has a personal brand. So all of us have a personal brand, and he built his personal brand for 10 years and then got into teaching businesses and small businesses how to use the same tools and techniques that he used to get low cost attention for 10 years and blow up, and that he did at wine libraries and all that kind of stuff like that. But I think that's the crux of the business. He was able to use low cost media, camera in his face, and now he's teaching businesses how to do it. Tom, on to you, on to Eric, and then on to Alf. What do you get? Alf, okay, go on.
Aleph, I would say, not Alf. I don't think he's I don't think he's an alien who eats cats that just joined.
Well, we're coming to him and he can pronounce that, and I hope he says it's Alf. So
I mean, maybe the E is silent, but I doubt it. E's aren't often silent. I'm gonna say Aleph.
Sorry to tell you, Tom, Dominic is right. I am an episode of Alf.
Yes, thank you. Hey! Man, let's clip this. He sure wanted to make me look bad. Alf, we appreciate you being here. You are a good man. In a minute, I'm reading this guy's whole bio because I can tell he is a man of the people. He is his educated soul. He is successful. So on to Tom, and then we're going to Eric.
Well, I'm just kind of here. This is my first time here, guys, and welcome. I'm feeling really good. Thank you so much for welcoming me to the stage. I was kind of populating here just to be commenting if something pops up that I.
Hey, hang out, my friend. We're glad you're here. Okay, so Eric, I'm skipping Tom because he was mean to me, so we're going right to Eric.
No. I'm cutting in. Nice try, buddy.
What do you got?
Nice try. No, I was just gonna say, I think, like, actually, to me, like, the sort of the evolution of VaynerMedia makes a ton of sense, and it's a very sort of clear path to my way of thinking, right? Like, the whole thing started with Wine Library, right? And Gary's YouTube show, and what he did, because he didn't know how to do anything else, right, is he turned on a camera and he was himself, right? It was an experiment. It was in the early days of YouTube. Right. YouTube wasn't popular. He wasn't trying to build an audience. He wasn't trying to be a YouTuber. He just thought, hey, here's a way that I can make video content that maybe will reach some of our customers or maybe help us bring new customers into the store. And he didn't know how to do anything other than be his authentic self. And so that's exactly what he did. He went on YouTube, he turned the camera on himself, and he started doing wine tastings. And he was just authentic, 100% authentic. And it worked. It gained a lot of traction. He saw how much traction it gained. It started bringing in a lot of business to the wine shop. He ended up buying his father out of the wine shop and taking that over. And then over time, he built a huge following on social media off of his initial success on YouTube. And then ultimately, he saw what he had done for himself was repeatable and scalable and buildable for other brands and other businesses. He said, hey, if I can do this for me, I can do it for other people too. And so that was the sort of genesis of VaynerMedia, I think, and if I'm understanding the timeline correctly, right? So, like, it makes a ton of sense to me. And I would say it has always been sort of a user-centric approach, right? It has always been, because social media and YouTube is all about, like, it's very clear. If you're doing something people like, they subscribe, they follow you, and more people subscribe and follow you. If you're not doing something that people like, then they don't, right? Like, so it makes sense, that they've always kind of followed this user-centric approach, because that's how Gary started the whole thing to begin with. So I just wanted to throw that out there to kind of back up what what Jason and Julie were talking about. Anyway, Eric, on to you. I hear what you're saying about the Concorde. I think what they failed to do with the Concorde was make it affordable and convenient, and accessible and efficient. So I think that's probably was the downfall of the Concorde. But anyway, would love to hear your thoughts on user-centric content and user-centric media, and how you approach either creating content that's focused on the user first, or consuming content that you find appealing to you as a consumer.
So I must be the most confused guy in the room, because we already have it. I mean, I go to Siri radio, and it's like, do you want to listen to country 105? Do you want to listen to Taylor Swift's playlist 107? Or I turn on my TV and HGTV's there, or DYI TV, or News TV. So it's already existing. Swim against the current. If it's already working and selling, wouldn't I just amplify my mic in the stream that I want to swim in order to gain the business that I want? Because I'm too old to create a new wheel and see if it works.
Well,
If the
hold on.
game is about making impact and money, I'm going to go where it's already happening.
Who's disagreeing with that, Eric? I think people are saying that. Play in the Facebook, play in the YouTube, play wherever. What you think Tom's disagreeing with you, or what are you saying?
No, I'm just saying, if it's from a business perspective, I'm not creating anything new. If it's for an experimental or a discovery or a personal interest, like, I wonder how this would play out. That's a different conversation. But when I create, and it's even getting smaller. My niche is like getting super tight, because I don't need 100,000 people. I need like 100 people willing to pay me $100,000 a year, and I'm good.
Okay,
So-
gotcha. And this is interesting. So you're saying, and I'm not, so there doesn't have to be trial and error. You're saying niche down and hit the thing that's already working and do it 10 times better or more efficiently. Is that the thought process?
Well, or just wear a different swimsuit in the pool. If everybody's, wearing two pieces, wear one. Like, you can, and that's all that Gary Vaynerchuk did. He just started swearing more than anybody else on media, and he drew the attention to him. In theater, they say, make sure they don't take your light, or, make sure you stay in the light. That's really the objective, is how do you keep your voice louder than anybody else for the audience that you're seeking, not for everybody, but for the audience you're seeking, in a way that holds them long enough for them to forget that anybody else exists.
Fair play. I say I used to be in pharmaceuticals, and we was right time, right message, right messenger. And so, meaning we'd go into the doctor, we'd have our little iPad with us, and we'd try to tell them about our drug. And that day, the doctor would kick us out. Next day, somebody else would go in. Doctor would kick them out. Then the third day, it was Friday at noon. They were the right person with the right message that day, and doctor would order the script. So my point being on Gary V, was he the right messenger at the right time he shared the message the right way? Yeah, for a lot of people. And then there's other people that could say, I'm turned off by that because there's too much swearing, where maybe Ed Millett's their guy, or somebody else doing something very similar, but without the language, or Mel Robbins. Go on, Eric. Like Mel Robbins female version of it that doesn't swear. Okay. So go on, Eric.
So I've read, and I don't know what book he's up to, but I have 5 or 6 Gary books that I've read cover to cover, highlighted, taken notes. I will not listen to him on podcast or YouTube, because he writes differently than he speaks. And when I listen to him on YouTube, or any kind of his live social media, I'm just like, I just cringe. But when I read him, I'm like, this guy's got some pretty smart ideas. So again, he's covered both bases, I guess.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I'm a huge fan of Gary V. Love the videos, hate the books. I like, and here I got all these books. When I read it, I'm like, I feel like you already said this, and did he just cut and paste this? So yeah, I hear you. It's interesting. So here we are, 2 guys, 2 consumers that want his content. We like his content, but we just consume it different ways. So interesting. All right, not the smartest guys in the room. I should have asked about the dire wolf, like Eric said. That would have been funny. These freaky wolves that they're bringing back to life. I mean, that's weird. Now they're going to have these wolves. Anything we clone and bring back to life, I got to talk about this, Tom. Sorry, sidebarring. I almost want to cancel my show and tell.
I almost wish you had mentioned. I almost wish that you had. I almost wish you had brought it up, just because I love listening to you say wolf. Because you have
wolf. What the hell? What do you want to say?
Will you just say woof?
Wolf. What? WOLF.
You don't say the L though. You say woof.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. Hey, Julie, if you're still here, what was that word the other day? WHALE. I have to spell it just because I know it's odd.
Will,
Yeah, right.
you know, Will,
I don't even want to say it because I think there might be something in my processing of the word or something that so
I have
maybe.
a Pittsburgh accent now, and just getting all the transcripts from all our recordings, and you call me Jolie, and Will.
Well. See,
Will.
so well and woof.
Whale.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, moving on. Okay, Tom, the world's shortest show and tell today. Can we do it that? Can we do it that quick?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it real quick.
That's all. We could have dropped the segment to talk about the wolf, but okay. Today I am going to show you my Stein boxing glove, and you see, I have a lot of things like that represent boxing and behind me, but this Stein boxing glove, it looks real. It looks just like a glove. But the reason I want to tell you about this is because I was having a conversation with my daughter last night, and I said, I am not somebody I thought needed to defend themselves. And I'm not saying that you need to fight all the time. I'm not encouraging that. I'm saying sometimes in life, you have to step up and defend yourself. So I have a lot of boxing stuff around. And to me, that's what it means. Sometimes enough bullshit, it's time to defend yourself. You know, I'm not talking about starting fights all the time. I'm talking about defending yourself. But is this little Budweiser, and why is it Budweiser? I don't know. Boxing glove, cool or what? There you go, Tom.
So are you suggesting that you defend yourself by hitting somebody with that Stein?
I'm saying that whatever, it could be words, it could be knowledge, it could be sometimes standing up for yourself or whatever, but I would never risk breaking this beautiful Stein. Hey, I just found inside of it, when I pulled it up, it was a contract from a few years back, a thank you note on it, but the date was 2022. So I hope I
have
did
you
the
been
work.
looking for that?
Yeah, hope I did that.
I like it. I like it. I think my only my only thing with those, I think those are great pieces of memorabilia to like have on a shelf, right? They're great sort of display things. I love those things even more when they're actually really practical to use. And my guess is that drinking out of that is not a great experience, probably. So I like it. I like them less when they're like that, but I do appreciate it. I think like stuff like that looks better, like looks great sitting on a shelf. It's a cool piece. It's fun. You could break it out as a joke. I do kind of wish it wasn't Budweiser because not good beer. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, I think it's great. I think it's cool. It's a fun, definitely a fun piece of sort of kitsch to have on a shelf. So I like it. I like it. Good show and tell. Good show and tell.
Thank you. I found an old check. I found a strange nail in there and a marker. So it held a lot of cool stuff as well, Tom. Okay, not the smartest guys in the room. We appreciate you all for being here. Alf was here. Jason was here. Debbie, April, Julie, Dr. Tachi. We had a lot of comments here today, Tom. Comments were blowing up. People are mad at you for not knowing how to correctly pronounce Alf's name. You tried to say it was some other way, which was incorrect. So, Tom, on that note, do you want to wrap us up with something positive?
I took a guess, and it was twofold. It was one based on the fact that you tend to mispronounce names. So there's that. So I was going based on that assumption, and that the E was not silent, because usually E's are not silent. So, I was wrong. It's all right. It happens every once in a while. What are you going to do?
Okay, as part of that misinformation, mispronouncing, I got it all wrong. I got it in reverse. Okay, the joke doesn't work anymore.
Okay.
There you go, Tom. Go on.
Anyway, so yeah, so I'll go ahead and wrap up real quick. We are coming up on the hour, so here we go. Appreciate you guys all for being here this week with us. But I just want to encourage everybody as we go forward, as the media landscape and the media world that we live in, as Jason correctly pointed out, we get thrown, stuff gets thrown at us kind of in a never-ending barrage of content. Just remember that in this media environment, it is increasingly more important that you do two things. One is you think about your audience always in everything that you do. And two is that you remain open and adaptable to new forms of media as they evolve going forward. It is the only way you will kind of survive through this barrage of change, this onslaught of change that we're living through. So I just want to remind everybody of those two things before we go. That's all I got for today for the wrap up. Thank you all for being here once again. For Dom, I'm Tom. We are not the smartest guys in the room. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. You guys are the reason why we do this. We are here every Wednesday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time with Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. Until next Wednesday, have a great rest of your week and a great weekend. We love you. We appreciate you. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.